Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Farr, president of the Religious Freedom Institute in Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining me. I want to talk to you today about the crisis of religious freedom in the United States and our responsibility as Catholics to respond to that crisis. As you may know, religious freedom is in deep trouble in many countries around the world. Our mission at the Religious Freedom Institute is to engage that problem wherever it appears, including in places like the Middle East, South Asia, East Asia, or the United States. Now, you may think it's odd to speak of what's happening to religious freedom here in the same sentence with what's happening to Catholics and other minorities in places like China or Pakistan or Iraq, where they're vulnerable to arrest, kidnapping, torture, even murder because of their religious beliefs. That's not happening to Catholics or anyone else in our country, and please God, never will. But what happens to religious freedom in America has a major impact on its fate in the rest of the world. Why? Because religious freedom has been fully embraced in law and in culture in only one place in history, and that's our own country. Here and only here is the free exercise of religion a constitutional right guaranteed to all of us and all of our religious traditions. If religious freedom is damaged or lost here, it's going to impact the entire world. The free exercise of religion guaranteed in the First Amendment to each of us means first and foremost the right to worship God, to attend Mass if we're Catholics, to train good and faithful priests in our seminaries, to raise our children in the faith. But free exercise in America means much more than that, more than it means anywhere else in the world. It means the right to live publicly, in our case as Catholics, to witness publicly to the truths of our faith by building public Catholic institutions such as hospitals and schools, charities and nonprofits that make the case by their very existence for our understanding of virtue, the true and the good, and how these teachings should be reflected in law and public policy. That's precisely what the founders meant by the free exercise of religion. For over 200 years, Americans have viewed the right of religious freedom as the first freedom, because it's the freedom upon which all the others are built. Those days are gone. Today, growing numbers of Americans and American institutions, especially our culture-forming institutions, are buying into a pernicious lie that religious freedom is a front for bigots and haters and even racists. The results of this perception are devastating to religion in America, to our church, and to its public witness, and to our entire country. So I have two questions for you. First, how serious is this crisis? Won't the courts protect us? Second, what is our responsibility as Catholics? What should we do? The key to answering the second question lies in what Jesus said 2,000 years ago, but also to a young nun on a train in India in 1946. Jesus beckoned Sister Teresa, later Mother Teresa, with the words, "Come be my light." Her response to Jesus was to form the Missionaries of Charity, perhaps the most consequential Catholic organization of our time. That's our answer in a nutshell. We too must commit ourselves to be the light of Christ in our own culture today. And it's not going to be easy. I'll return to this shortly. Let's talk about the dimensions of this crisis. The first question, how serious is it? How aware are we all of the crisis of the religious freedom in America? For American Catholics, we're witnessing a sustained assault on our beliefs and the institutions that protect them and convey them. The assault has developed over many decades, but it's accelerated with stunning rapidity and power over the last 5 years. And much of the assault stems from growing public rejection of core and frankly irreplaceable Catholic teachings regarding marriage and the family, human sexuality and love, and the very question of what is a human being and what is the meaning and source of his dignity and his freedom? What is man and woman? And where do the distinctions between them come from? Opponents of our Catholic teachings are attempting to brand us as bigots, haters, and yes, even racists. And they're succeeding. This lie is being absorbed by virtually all the culture-forming institutions of our nation, major corporations, the sports industry, the media and entertainment industries, our public schools and colleges, and even the medical profession. All of them are communicating in one form or another that Catholics and others who agree with us are bigoted and hateful. And you know, the greatest danger and the greatest tragedy of all is that woefully unformed young people, including some Catholic young people, our future justices, our corporate leaders, are learning this lesson. So let me give you a few examples how the lesson is being taught in our law and in our culture. My first example is the June Supreme Court decision called Bostock, which was written by conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch and joined by conservative Chief Justice John Roberts. I mention that they're both conservatives to drive home the point that the Supreme Court, which after all manufactured the rights of abortion, sodomy, and same-sex marriage, is not going to solve this problem for us. We must fight for good justices, but not be fooled into thinking they're the solution to this problem. The Bostock decision declared that henceforth in American civil rights law, the word sex no longer means what Congress said it meant in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, that is, man and woman. The court has once again taken upon itself, as it did with abortion, sodomy, and same-sex marriage, to determine for us what constitutes the public good. As a result of Bostock, sex in our civil rights laws now means, in addition to man and woman, anyone who identifies as lesbian, gay, or transgender. This isn't just a dictionary change. It means that Catholic institutions that remain true to our faith can be sued out of existence. And those lawsuits have already begun. Citing the Bostock ruling, the ACLU has sued St. Joseph's Medical Center in Maryland for refusing on Catholic grounds to perform a hysterectomy on a woman who identifies as a man. The ACLU says that applying Catholic doctrine in this case violates the First Amendment's ban on an establishment of religion by the state. This is nonsense. The purpose of the Establishment Clause is to protect religion from the state, not the reverse. The founders wanted religion in our public lives, which is why they gave us the constitutional guarantee of the free exercise of religion. The ban on an establishment is there to empower free exercise. But the founders' view of the Establishment Clause has been rejected by most of the legal profession and by most of the courts. It's being used to drive Christian claims about the true and the good from public life. And make no mistake, the ACLU is using that decision to remove Catholic understandings of truth from our hospitals and our institutions around the country. That's nothing new. But what is new is the long line of other institutions and leaders in our country who are joining the queue. Take a look at this book by a respected journalist making a case that should be uncontroversial. Young girls should not be encouraged by culture or law to have sex reassignment surgery, which is irreversible and does permanent damage to these girls. So why is Amazon refusing to allow the book's publisher to run a sponsored ad on Amazon? Because Amazon says the book's message represents hatred and bigotry. Well, of course, that is absurd on its face. But Amazon is one of the most powerful culture-forming corporations in America. It's telling its customers that religious views about sex, as given by God, are bigoted. Sesame Street is now teaching very young children the same lesson. The Q that you see here in LGBTQ+ stands for questioning. The message to pre-adolescents is that you should be questioning the sex you were born with. And anyone who doesn't agree with that, including your parents, is being mean and unfair. If your parents' religion tells them and tells you that Sesame Street is wrong, then their religion is mean and unfair. Increasing numbers of public schools are using what you see here, the gender unicorn, to teach children in the earliest grades, including kindergarten children, about the good of homosexual and transgender identity. For example, look at the column down the middle and the third item in the middle of that column, sex assigned at birth. It's not just male or female, but it includes, as you can see, other or intersex. To have these lessons taught to children by the authority of the state is devastating to religion and to its free exercise in America. So what about the sports industry? Transgender rights include the empowerment of biological males who identify as girls to participate in girls' sports. As you can see here, the biological male is winning the race. Of course, the belief that this is unjust isn't just a religious belief. But again, our children are being taught that anyone opposing this right is bigoted and hateful, and traditional religious views, certainly Catholic views about male and female, are usually the target of these assertions. Unfortunately, we're seeing this radical transgender ideology and its effects on religious freedom and on our capacity to tell the truth emerging in the American medical profession as well. In 2016, an HHS rule required doctors to perform gender-altering surgery on any patient, including a child, even if the doctor believed the procedure would be harmful. Refusal on religious or any other grounds usually meant loss of job and career. Now, as many of you probably know, that rule has been reversed by the current HHS. However, any of you who thinks it won't return, I would respectfully suggest is being naive. The idea that Catholic views on matters of sexuality and marriage are hateful and bigoted has been embraced by virtually all the emerging political leaders on the left, such as you see here, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Beto O'Rourke. You can see what AOC says about bigotry. O'Rourke, I'm going to focus on him for a second. He insisted that any religion refusing to sanction same-sex marriage should lose its tax exemption. That alone would eliminate hundreds of Catholic churches and Catholic institutions. This is an e-card, a sure sign that an idea is no longer outside the mainstream. Little Bobby here was born an atheist, but keep him away from religion because that will make him a hater and a bigot. Finally, this is a statement from the chairman of the Civil Rights Commission of the United States. He says religious freedom is a front for haters, bigots, racists, Christian supremacists, and all the rest. When this report came out in 2016, the Religious Freedom Institute did what it does. It gathered a coalition of Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and others. We sent a letter to President Obama asking him to repudiate this dangerous and irresponsible statement from a government official charged with protecting the civil rights of all Americans. We got an answer from the White House. President Obama refused to repudiate that statement. Ladies and gentlemen, we have allowed the opponents of our faith and of religious freedom in America to paint religion in general and Catholicism in particular as bigoted, and religious freedom as a front for bigots and haters. This is a threat to us, to our faith and our nation. And let me repeat what I said in the beginning. It's also a threat to Catholics and other religious minorities around the world. In China, for example, as you see here, Catholic bishops, priests, and lay people are under enormous pressure to abandon the faith and join the Communist Party's version of Catholicism. Let me end by addressing my second question. What's our responsibility to our faith and to religious freedom in America and to others around the world? What can we do? The first thing to be said is to be Catholic. Brush up on the great and beautiful teachings of our faith on the true meaning of love and human dignity and human freedom. Understand how those teachings reflect the words of our Lord and Savior, and teach them to those God has put by your side. Second, be Catholic in your public life. The founders believed religious freedom is important because our Constitution won't work without a moral and religious people. Catholics should bring Catholic religious teachings into our public life. The founders believed our republic would fail without a virtuous citizenry, and that the primary source of virtue is religion. Well, Catholics have something to say about virtue. Say it. The founders wanted America's religious institutions to exercise their religion in order to contribute to our understanding of the common good and how it should be reflected in our laws and our public policies. Free exercise of religion has produced the largest and most productive faith-based civil society in history. Catholic hospitals, schools, charities, nonprofits are a major part of that story. One study estimates that religious institutions, including Catholic institutions, add $1.2 trillion to our economy annually, more than Facebook, Google, and Apple combined. The presence of religion in public life means less crime. Have you considered how the decline of religion in America is contributing to the violence that is now consuming our cities? Clearly, it has had an impact. Studies show that more religion means better health. So how do we overcome this growing cultural and legal narrative that religious people in general and Catholics in particular are haters and bigots and racists? It's a lie. So counter the lie by telling the truth. Catholics and others who truly believe in and practice the teachings of Jesus Christ are lovers, not haters. The truth is that those who practice the teachings of Jesus do not exclude anyone from his love. We Catholics know we're sinners, called to love precisely everyone, because they too are created in his image and likeness. The truth is that the Catholic teachings on marriage and sex are about the greatest love possible for humans, other than the love of God. And marriage is an icon of God's love for us. The truth is that these teachings exclude no one. They embrace every person precisely because he or she is created in the image and likeness of God. The truth is that striving to live these teachings leads to true happiness in this life and in the next. But we have to do more than live these truths and speak openly about them. We have to support the small but growing number of countercultural institutions in our faith that are fighting to retake the culture, especially those who are focusing on our future leaders, our young Catholics. Many of those institutions are represented at this virtual conference. The Religious Freedom Institute, where I work, has a Center for Religious Freedom Education that has developed curricula for junior high schools, and colleges that tell the truth about religion and religious freedom in America. We're also developing a public campaign to protect the religious freedom of America's healthcare professionals, our doctors and our nurses. So let me sum up. I have 5 brief suggestions. First, and most obvious, pray. Ask God's assistance in defending religious freedom and giving us courage to witness our faith. Second, take inspiration from the saints to live lives wholly for God. Today, that's got to include defending religious freedom. Third, vote and engage in politics. Vote for candidates who support the truth and our right to express it. But understand something. No legislature, no president, no Supreme Court decision can solve the problem we have today. We have to retake the culture by exercising our religious freedom as Catholics. Fourth, as a great pope said, be not afraid. Love others by being courageous enough to speak the truth about love to those whom God has put by your side and to the culture. So many souls in our country are being led away from happiness in this life and salvation in the next. Can we be said to be lovers of Christ if we ignore this terrible truth? Each of us has a responsibility to speak in whatever way God gives us, at work, at social gatherings, on social media. Don't be afraid to meet lies with the love that is the truth. Fifth and finally, and in some ways most importantly for this presentation, support Catholic schools, hospitals, charities, and organizations that teach the truth. This is especially critical for those organizations that are engaging our future leaders. And let me add, pull your support away from those who are too timid or too afraid to teach the truth. I'm going to end by recalling the words of the great Cardinal Francis George, and I quote, "I expect to die in bed," which he did. "My successor will die in prison, and his successor will die a martyr in the public square. His successor will pick up the shards of a ruined society and slowly help build civilization, as the Church has done so often in human history." Unquote. Let us resolve to avoid the fates predicted by Cardinal George for his successors. Let us begin now to pick up the shards and rebuild. Let us, like St. Teresa of Calcutta, work to return the light of Christ to our nation and to the world. Thank you for watching. Thanks to the Napa Institute, and God bless you all.